Volcanoes are powerful forces of nature. They're awesome to behold from afar, and an absolute thrill if you get up close. That's why millions of people around the world visit volcanoes every year. But it's important to remember that many of the world's volcanoes are still active. And although volcanic eruptions are rare, they do happen. So it's important to know what to do if you find yourself at an active volcano when it erupts. We'll tell you all that and more in today's video. If you think Mount Vesuvius is scary, just wait until you hear about Mount Unzen in Japan. In 1792, this volcano erupted with such force that it blew the tops off of two nearby mountains. The pyroclastic flows and mudslides associated with the eruption wiped out entire villages in an instant. Today, there are memorials on the mountain to those who lost their lives in the tragedy. But many tourists still climb the mountain each year. In fact, about 10,000 people attempt to reach the summit of Mount Unzen every year. Some want to see the beautiful volcanic scenery. Others want to try to catch a glimpse of the infamous Jigokudani, or Hell's Valley. To reach the crater, however, hikers must brave poisonous sulfur gas and make their way over a solidified lava field. Although it's not recommended, some tourists have even been known to climb into the crater itself. If you want to visit this volcano, be very careful. There have been numerous reports of people getting injured or even dying because of the dangerous gases. And if you want to hike to the top, check the weather forecast beforehand. In the event of bad weather, hikers often slip and fall on the rocky terrain. But regardless of how you choose to visit Mount Unzen, it's definitely an adventure. Mount Bromo is another impressive volcano. It towers over the Indonesian island of Java and has become one of the country's most popular tourist attractions. In fact, more than 2 million tourists come to Mount Bromo every year. Most of them want to watch the sunrise from the top of the nearby Mount Penanjakan. Those who do are rewarded with some of the most spectacular views of the day. Seeing the rising sun over the jagged peaks and smoke billowing from Mount Bromo is an unforgettable sight. And since the volcano is still active, you might even witness a sea of fog rolling across its slopes. But be careful, even though you're far away from the crater when viewing the sunrise, things can still go wrong. Many tourists don't realize that the altitude can make them very ill. There isn't much oxygen in the thin mountain air, which means you can get out of breath very easily. So if you're not used to hiking at high altitudes, take your time, stay hydrated, and watch out for signs of altitude sickness like headaches, nausea, and shortness of breath. Although we've only discussed 2 volcanoes so far, there are plenty more to talk about. But first, we want to remind you to stay tuned for more exciting content. Now let's move on. It may surprise you to learn that Mount Vesuvius was once a popular tourist destination. After all, it's the volcano responsible for wiping out the Roman city of Pompeii nearly 2,000 years ago. But these days, visitors can take guided tours of the area where Pompeii once stood, as well as the towns of Herculaneum and Stabia. They can also take guided tours of Mount Vesuvius itself. These tours are only available on the lower slopes of the volcano, but that's still pretty close to the crater. If you want to take a tour, keep in mind that you should only do so with a licensed guide. Although the risk of an eruption is low, if Vesuvius were to erupt while you're touring the volcano, your life could be in danger. So please take all necessary precautions. Some tourists aren't satisfied with merely looking at the dangerous slopes of an active volcano. They want to get up close and personal with it. That's why thousands of thrill seekers climb Mount Ibu in Indonesia every year. This volcano is no joke. It towers over the Banda Sea at almost 4,000 meters and has had at least 20 major eruptions in recorded history. In 2004, it violently erupted and forced nearly 23,000 villagers to flee. The ash cloud reached all the way to Australia, more than 6,000 kilometers away. But despite this, tourists still flock to Mount Ibu. For many, the biggest draw is the beautiful view of the crater lake. It's formed from the steam and water runoff of the volcano and is considered sacred by the locals. Only 150 people are allowed to climb Mount Ibu every year. However, the Indonesian government is considering increasing this number to 300. If you want to be one of the few people who gets to climb Mount Ibu, be prepared for a long journey. The hike takes about 5 days, and you'll need to bring food, water, and camping equipment. Speaking of camping, there are places where you can camp near active volcanoes. One example is the Mount Teide National Park in Spain. This park surrounds the famous Mount Teide, the highest peak in Spain. At 3,718 meters, it dominates the island of Tenerife. And unlike many of the other volcanoes we've mentioned, Mount Teide is very likely to erupt again. In fact, it's been erupting consistently since 1909. But don't worry, the chances of you getting hurt in an eruption are slim to none. That's because the next eruption is expected to take place under the sea. Mount Teide is actually a dormant volcano, which means it hasn't erupted in a very long time. Its last eruption was in 1987, and before that, it erupted in 1949. It will probably erupt again sometime in the near future, but the exact date is unknown. You can camp in the national park surrounding the volcano, but you won't be allowed to stay too close to the crater. The reason for this is that if the volcano erupts, you could be in danger. A thick layer of ash would cover the entire island and you might be trapped in Tenerife. For this next volcano, you won't believe how close people get to the crater. Mount Nyiragongo is an active volcano located in Papua New Guinea. Thousands of tourists travel here every year to go white water rafting on the nearby rivers. If you're interested in doing this, make sure you only go with a licensed guide. Don't forget to pack life jackets and helmets, as well as raincoats and waterproof bags. And most importantly, make sure you're aware of the risks. If the volcano erupts, you could be stranded in the middle of a raging river surrounded by molten lava. If you thought standing next to an active volcano was risky, wait till you hear about the crater lake at the top of Mount Nyiragongo. Every year, intrepid tourists climb this volcano in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Many of them descend into the crater to take a dip in the boiling hot lava lake. That's right. You can literally swim in a pool of molten lava. If you want to do this, be very careful. The water temperature is between 900 and 1,200 degrees Celsius. So if you fall in, you could be burned alive. Another danger is that the lava level can rise and fall suddenly. When the lava level rises, you could be trapped inside the crater. When the lava level falls, you could be left stranded on a small island in the middle of the lake. And to make matters worse, the air inside the crater contains toxic gases that can kill you in less than 15 minutes. Now, it's time to test your knowledge. How much do you remember about these dangerous volcanoes? Let us know in the comments below. In the past, Mount Pinatubo was just another inactive volcano in the Philippines. But in 1991, it violently erupted, killing over 800 people. The eruption was so powerful that it sent a massive ash cloud 35 kilometers into the atmosphere. But this didn't stop tourists from climbing the volcano soon after the eruption. These days, hundreds of tourists visit Mount Pinatubo every year to explore the crater lake. But if you want to hike to the lake, you'll have to prepare for a tough journey. The volcano is covered in thick mud and rocks, making it difficult to navigate. And if you want to hike to the lake, you'll have to trek through 8 kilometers of rough terrain. But the stunning views of the lake make the journey worthwhile. Just remember to be careful. If the volcano erupts again, you could be trapped in the crater. Volcanoes are fascinating natural wonders that attract millions of tourists every year. Whether you want to hike to the top of an active volcano or stand at the edge of its crater, there's no denying that volcanoes are impressive sights to behold. But it's important to remember that they are also dangerous. So be sure to take all the necessary precautions if you want to visit an active volcano. Do you know any other volcanoes that we didn't mention in this video? Let us know in the comments.